Welcome back, everybody. We are in the last series of the day. Another TVP tends to happen when there's 3 Protoss and 1 Terran. KeeN versus RushCrazy. So let's get the right name up on the scoreboard here. It's going to be on Newkirk Precinct to start things off, and KeeN did just 2-0. Another Chinese Protoss, the name of Max said, can he do it again versus RushCrazy? And we are in the right positions. Awesome. In the bottom right, to start off this best of 3, it is the green Protoss, RushCrazy. Gonna just try and call him Rush, because it's too long of a name. In the bottom left is the blue Terran. He is KeeN, Clan Dopin. So KeeN did a couple of different things, which is nice to see. So he went for triple barracks opener in one game. He went for Wood of Mine drop. Another game, he went for the tricky kind of Wood of Mine drop, but with a combo stim timing. He can do a lot of things versus Protoss, but he does tend to... He has so far just kind of been forced into a lot of positions where he's gone for Liberators and a lot of Liberators. So I imagine we'll see most of that again here in this best of 3. But I do think RushCrazy is going to be a little more aggressive. I honestly thought Max would have had at least one cheese game in him, but instead he went for the... 2 base Stargate into slow macro game, which is not bad. It's just I thought he would have at least one cheese. I really think RushCrazy would have another cheese. Like, I think this guy is appropriately named. He's not like totally out there and what the fuck's going on, but he did have a couple more aggressive maneuvers. His confidence sometimes is overconfidence, but I liked it. Just the way that the style is like to like Euthermal used to be, right? Like he learned to control his aggression. But at first, it was just like wildly swinging punches everywhere. Kind of get the same feeling from RushCrazy in that PvP. Don't know at all what he's like in PvT though, and this could be like drastically different. It'd also be very different, just like again going up against KeeN because he went up against Maxed once and Stats once. Both of these guys are 1-1, and I believe have the same map score as well. Yeah, same map score as well. Stats in first place, Maxed is absolutely out of this, but these guys, whoever wins this, will claim that second place spot. Unfortunately for me, this is like the first time I've seen this happen. The last 2 times, one time the guy didn't even show up for the last series, and another time the last series was not important for one of the guys playing, and that's just always like a little bit lame, you know? So the fact that it's now important for both of these guys is a lot more hype. Probe did its scouting duty. Now it's up to the Reaper to try and do some as well. I mean, it's already seen what it needed to with the SEV, but this is just going to be able to survive a little bit longer and get that secondary scout that's, we'll see, like, if it's a Robo, Twilight Council, or Stargate. Kind of the 3 options. Mass gateways is not really a plan anymore. I think we saw 1 attempt at a 4 or 5 gate versus a Terran on 2 bases, but I don't remember how it went. TBH. It is a Wood of Mine drop from KeeN, so if the Reaper does a poor job of scouting, the drop will be able to make up for that. Robo on the way, Twilight Council should follow soon, and it is pretty normal. Damn perfume. Who knew that your room could smell too good? Who knew? There's that Twilight Council. So the Wood of Mine drop should not be able to do very much. RushCrazy should be getting an observer first here, and there it is. He has not scouted much from KeeN, but the assumption is generally that it's going to be a Wood of Mine drop. Really, the early probe scout is not to see what is coming off of 2 bases, but to see if it is a 2 base at all. Proxy Reapers can still be good, and 1 base builds can still be good, but I feel like we've seen a decrease in 1 base builds as of this patch. There's nothing to really contribute to that, by the way. Like, nothing changed in the early game for the Protoss, except that the Adepts are even worse at scouting. But, like, nothing else has changed. So it's interesting, though, that we've seen so many Terrans still go for the 2 base attacks. Unless they're facing Zerg, of course, and then it's, 3-rack city. Stalkers are very well positioned. I mean, it's Newkirk Precinct, the most obvious drop location. Same deal happened on New Gettysburg, same deal happens on Van Nuys, basically. I mean, you're just gonna know. The Reaper actually manages to scout the positioning of the Stalkers, which is kind of as good as seeing the buildings off to the right side. I mean, you saw the Robo, which is usually enough. Oops, didn't actually grab that. And I didn't quite see the Twilight Council, so there's like a little bit of suspicion, like what if it is like a ton of gateways and a warp prism, but you see the Robo, I think you're gonna like just be like, okay, I guess it's a regular game. And it's more important that seeing the Stalkers, he will no longer medevac drop to that location. Third base on the way. Pretty well timed. Link Stalkers. Seems pretty normal. This observer could be sniped if KeeN's looking for it. Actually scans it. Like I said, he didn't see off to the right, so the fact that he didn't see the Twilight Council is like a little bit suspicious. Or the number of gateways. But he sees now that 3 more gateways are on the way now, which should, you know, mean that there's a third nexus between all that. I've been like looking for this, what am I drop? There we go. Alright, so the Mind drop took a little bit of pepper from those Stalkers. They did reposition themselves correctly, but KeeN was on guard with it. It is 1 Mind drop, and really at this point you're just hoping not to lose the medevac. Don't even have to really worry about getting a Mind drop to get really good damage. Reductions aren't a match what will be 3 bases for the Protoss player, so a good probe count too. Now the one problem with Newkirk Precinct is that with a tank push, the third base can kind of act as its own force field, which usually is favorable for a Protoss player, right? Think about Overgrowth and how they would use the hatchery as a force field, and it was just brutal. But for any other situation, if you're whatever race taking this base against someone who has positionally good units like Siege Tanks or Colossus, the fact that you can't really have like a huge concave, they're the ones with a huge concave, it can really make a big deal. It make a big difference between whether the push is effective or not. And KeeN is looking for that push. He does have 4 barracks? 5 barracks. There you are, you little sneaky 5th barracks. It's 3, 5, and 7. And maybe 9? I'm not sure about that. But, alright, so it is going to be that push that we saw in Echo versus Maxed. It did really good damage. It won the game, but Maxed is also playing a different type of game. RushCrazy already doing some good work with his Blink Stalkers, taking on a lot of Marines, the cover for the tanks, whereas Maxed was just trying to wait and defend, receive, basically, at his base. This could have gone really poorly, and a lot of his Stalkers did take a lot of damage, but he's hoping that by taking out a lot of the Marines, the Resonant Glaives Adepts will be able to take out the tanks. I still don't know about pushing forward like this. This is maybe a little bit too aggressive. The tanks are getting some really nice shots in what is a very bulked-up Protoss army. What is more ideal is when the Adepts, first of all, wait for Resonant Glaives, but then second of all, actually shade on top of the tanks. Both the Stalkers do not take extra damage from the tanks, and the Adepts were all clumped up, and that just wasn't the way to start things off, I think, well, for RushCrazy. But he still has a decent army supply, and maybe he can still push this back, but we are getting into that territory that I was talking about, where it's just like, it's no longer concave versus concave, it's a very, like, mixed together group of units, all clumped up, and they are just getting shot down so easily. I don't think that RushCrazy can take this on. It could have been different had he not been as aggressive initially, and had that Nexus not acted against him with the way that you have to expand a Newkirk, but even then, tanks are just going to be very difficult to deal with any type of army. The Adept counterattack was a good idea. It's killing quite a few SCVs, but KeeN's army is just hardcore winning the army fight. Not even sieging up the tanks anymore. A couple Liberators going to really be icing on the cake here. And while RushCrazy is trying to expand to the north, it's too late. The tanks will be able to siege up on the low ground a little bit here, and he's out of luck. The Adepts are finally cleaned up. If you're killing 19 SCVs is impressive, but KeeN just got 10 probes himself. GG. KeeN looking very good against these Chinese Protosses, which is exactly what he needs. He lost versus stats, so he couldn't get first place, and then he had to beat this guy to actually get second, and it's looking good. That's right, this is my water bottle. It's a very Korean thing to do, just get giant water bottles. I actually have a cup I could put it in, which is sometimes what I do, but I like how I look like a baby having to hold this with 2 hands. I'm a little baby. thinking, I bet I could hang that actually over there. Huh. What I don't understand is why, one, there's no trash can in this place. They just make you buy a trash can. And I thought about it, but it'd be like the tiniest little trash can ever. Like, why would I? And then second of all, they have a line across the window for curtains, but no curtains. And I looked, even though there are curtains available that are the size of this window, they aren't useful. They're all like see-through, and I'm like, well, like, I don't. The point is like not to have the sun on my face. What's happening? So I didn't bother. I do wonder though. Yeah, I broke this chair first of all, and then second of all, I sleep during the day, so it would have been nice to have curtains. But I'm just wondering, like, do they actually keep the old guests or whatever you want to call them, like important stuff? Like, obviously they wouldn't keep random junk like shampoo and whatever. It's not a hotel, but it wouldn't be bad to keep like curtains, right? Or like a new chair. I'm totally willing to buy a new chair because this one sucks even without being broken. But would they get mad? I don't know. And I can't ask them because they don't speak any English at all. That's fair, I don't speak any Korean. I don't know the word for curtains. This patch literally turned the game back in a Heart of the Swarm. In some situations, yeah. It's not an entirely wrong statement. Just the one little addition to that, though, because for me, seeing Colossus again like it's being played, like the faster 2-base Colossus into like the slow build-up of 3-base, 4-base, that's very Heart of the Swarm for me. But it was happening before the patch. It just was like very shortly before the patch, so it seems that you can blame it on the patch, but you actually can't. So the other ways in which it looks more Heart of the Swarm, I guess, is also the ZVT matchup, but there's been no Zergs today, so not gonna talk about it. Whoopsie, that is the wrong button. Happens occasionally. There we go. In the top right, swap that around. Oh, nuts. Nuts and butts. There we go. In the top right, he is down one. It is the red Protoss. RushCrazy. In the bottom left, as the blue Terran, he is KeeN. Alright, so his tank push looked very effective, and this was the other time we saw a tank push wasn't overgrowth against Maxed, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did the same thing again. It worked against Colossus player, and it worked against a Gateway player. Now, the way that Rush did the Gateway army was not quite the same as what Stats did. Stats had everything in place ready to go so damn quick, it was scary, right? Obviously his macro's on point, his micro's on point, so that's a very good player, but just his, like, knowledge of the game was also on point. So he knew when it was really safe to take a third base, so his third bases were always very quick, and he knew he could do it with very few units, so he was doing it in a very greedy fashion, which KeeN tried to abuse, and just couldn't. Whereas, I would say, even though Rush's third base was well-timed, it still, like, maybe could have been even greedier. It could have been, like, maybe, like, more probes being chronoed out as opposed to anything else being chronoed out. It could have been, you know, actually I forget the timing on the robo. The point is, like, it probably could have been greedier. And maybe he would have had just the slightly bigger army come the attack, too. But that aside, because that's kind of just, like, me guessworking here, and I'd actually go back and look and, you know, analyze. I do know for sure his Blink Stalker micro was fine, but his push forward with the Adepts was not fine. That was probably his biggest mistake, and I think if he watched the VOD too, he would also agree, as well as any other macro mistakes he made, but definitely that attack. It was before Resident Enclaves, and it was still clumped up. The reason he felt the necessity to do it, though, he wasn't entirely wrong, was that he did not want KeeN to get that position he did. Once you saw what happens once you're up in that position against the Nexus, your army just automatically clumps up, makes it no good. And then Rush made it worse for himself putting that one pylon down, remember? So it's just a complicated mess of things to actually stop that push, but, you know, Stats did 2-0 KeeN, and it's not impossible, but it also tells me that KeeN just, like, again, more confident versus these last two Protosses. But anyway, we do have a robo on the way, factory on the way here for KeeN. KeeN did this once before also, so again, like, kind of like that little bit of a, it's not necessarily a trick, but it is that's in between. There's the fast 3 base, and then there's the fast medevacs that come with a Widowmine drop, or 3 base, fast 3 barracks. In one of the games, he went for a Widowmine drop, right, which is doing here, but it follows with Stim 2. So you don't have a lot of medevacs, you don't have a lot of units, you have faster upgraded units with a couple of key tech units, which by a couple of key tech units I mean medevacs. So it can still be a surprising little maneuver. It is a change up in the builds, kind of the 3 main builds I guess a Terran can do, aside from the occasional CC first into whatever else they want to do. But it can be a surprise, and if Rush looked at that last game and said, you know what, I could have been greedier, you know, I could have gotten away with more, because he wasn't going to attack me for a certain amount of time, and he tried to be very greedy here, KeeN might just be able to kill too much of his army with this earlier stim push. But he's not being too greedy. 2 gateways, blink on the way, defending against what he assumes is going to be a medevac drop, which is wrong. This is the other problem. If you assume it's a medevac drop, your unit's going to be in position to defend against a medevac, not a main push. But this observer should be coming here and seeing it's not in fact a Widowmine drop, and the stalkers will reposition themselves to something a little bit better. Rush should probably be getting a 3rd base right now. He's banking quite a lot of minerals. He should be getting a 3rd base and warping in right now. Okay, there's the 3rd base finally, but also the warp-ins. Gateways are there. It's a pretty big deal. He is only on 3 gateways. Oh, 4? No, 3. Yeah, 3 gateways. And start to bank a little too many minerals. KeeN does not go for the Widowmine out of that tech lab instead. The observer did see that, which is quite important. And you'll see that there's a lot of production too, and you saw the tech labs already moving and grooving, so he should be a little scared of what push can come. 2 more barracks as well, not a 3rd CC. Looks like the... Oh, there was a Widowmine drop. Do anything? No. Well, it's 2 Widowmines even. But then followed up with the tanks, makes sense, right? So the Widowmine drop doesn't do anything. But as long as the medevac lives, and oh my god, it barely lived, holy crap, then it can add on to the main push, which is like far more important. Combat shields, Martyr slow, +1, all on the way too. Again, Rush, like, he had this really good defense. You know, he had the start to the defense, rather. He had stalkers killing a couple Marines, reducing the fodder for the tanks. Hopefully the Depths could have done the follow-up damage, but then he did that one other attack that just didn't quite work out. Maybe this game it goes a little bit better. Maybe the stalkers do continue to poke and prod at the Marines, or maybe the Adept Resonating Blades is done and he shades in appropriately against the tanks. There's going to be a bit bigger of a bio army. A couple SCVs are actually coming with this automatically. We saw last game he can actually drop a mule, which is pretty cool. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe not. So just repaying the medevac. I would have liked if the SCVs came forward. Oh well. Stalkers can't kill too many Marines unless they themselves die. More Depths are on the way, and this time we're also going to have an Immortal. But Liberators are following suit, and that also was a complicated matter to deal with last game, but they just came after the game was already won. Here, you're not going to have that same quite problem unless you're pushed back all the way to like over here with the Adepts, but that might just be happening, and he will once again have to go through a choke against 2 tanks. Not quite as bad, but fairly similar. Resonating Glaives +1 almost done, but those tanks just, you know, they can't get those huge shots off on a very clumped up army. And there's where the Adepts come in. They might take the fight. All the upgrades are done. They get on top of those tanks, but they're not dying super quick. There's one going down. The other one's actually still very, very healthy. It's actually not even being target fired here, but the bio is going down. Liberator's can only help out so much. He picks up the bio. Reinforcements have to escape, and it looked at the Adepts this time. Just about did it. These Adepts chase forward way too much. And if the Adepts go down, the Stalkers could go down That was a bit of a mistake. I probably should not... Nope, should not have tried to save those adepts. Nope. Stalkers just cannot hold up. That was a big mistake by RushCrazy. That actually reduces their army supply significantly and might just be the game ending, especially if the War Prism goes down. That's no more micro on the... Maybe the Immortal go down? Oh, this Immortal anyway. And this is scary. Now, instead of the third base, is going to be the natural. KeeN is going to retreat a little bit, bulk up his army again. He's got more Liberators here. He is 2-basing it, guys. Like, we're really confirm that. He got those extra barracks, no third CC, stopped upgrading, but his army supply is 30 above, and Rush could still make a mistake in the engagement. Ooh, he chooses to go for a Doom drop, so this will leave the tanks behind, but the Liberators can cover the drop, and this could be very scary. Oh no. Oh, and Rush isn't going to see it. Rush could get tanks, but he's not going to grab them before he decides to return back home. Immortal gets popped instantly, and there's just not much Rush can do in this positioning. He's going to try and shade forward the Adept, who's going to help, but they're going to be underneath the Liberators that just aren't dying. Tanks are on the low ground, one even survives, and this might have just been the killing blow. Another Immortal goes down. This Immortal is only it's going to go through Liberators if it's not careful, or just get killed by the rest of the bio. And that looks like it's going to be game. When the army falls, the production will fall, and the Protoss will be 2-0'd, and unfortunately not make it through the group. Upgrades go down, observers go down, GG. KeeN takes the series 2-0. Well, that means that KeeN and Stats will get out of the group and advance on to the finals. The last group to happen will be Group D tomorrow. It's going to be Hero, Zest, Breaking GG, and Silky. 2 Chinese, 2 Korean once again. And we will be casting that time with Rifkin, I do believe. So come back tomorrow. But of course, come back in a couple of hours because Rifkin will be solo casting the Corsair Cup, as I will be trying to get on a more normalized sleep schedule. It was just a trade-off. It worked out pretty well. But thanks everyone for watching. Of course, go look at our sponsors, youtube.com. Use code BASE for 3% cash back. Wood watches. Of course, we have the Wood Watch tournament going on right now. But if you're looking for a really nice kind of coverall gift, they are super nice watches to get, and you can get them at woodwatches.com/base. And contribute to the next tournament as well. Corsair Gaming. Check out all the links down below. And last but not least, Chairs for Gaming. I wish I had one right now. My chair sucks right now. Get $20 off with code BaseTradeTV. And I think that's about it. Look down below for the Amazon links. If you are doing a Christmas shopping, that'll help me out a lot. It'll just give me a percentage of the purchase and add nothing for you. And follow me on Twitter @ZGaming and on YouTube @ZombieGrub. Also follow the channel down below and follow the channel's YouTube if you missed the games today. youtube.com/BaseTradeTV. And that should about do it. BaseTradeTV will see you guys back here in just a few hours with Rifkin solo casting. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.